Hello and welcome. This is the newsroom for today, Monday, June 8, 2020. We're broadcasting to you on E1, Scar TV, NTN, and Tarsi TV in Bartica. In the headlines, the final recount figures show the opposition PPP winning the March 2nd elections by over 15,000 votes.
And I want to assure all Guyanese that as we move towards the next stage of having the report submitted and a declaration, we must act in a responsible manner. We must act in a manner that our countrymen and women expect us to act in as leaders.
Attorney at Law Anil Nandlal says GCOM cannot pronounce on the credibility of the results.
That the recount is a legal exercise.
The teachers' union defies the government and tells teachers to stay home. Soldiers helping in the fight against COVID-19. And in sport, national footballer Curtis Kelman reflects on being stranded 80 days in Miami. With the news, I'm Neil Marks. We're glad you could join us. With the tabulation of all 2,339 statements of recount completed on Monday morning, it has been confirmed that the People's Progressive Party, the PPP, won the elections by 15,416 votes. It means the party will secure 33 seats in Parliament to take a one-seat majority. 40-year-old Dr. Irfaan Ali, who led an ambitious housing program to give cheap land to the poor during the PPP's previous terms in government, is expected to be sworn in as president. Ali, his running mate Brigadier Mark Phillips, and General Secretary Bar Jagdeo spoke with the media Sunday evening after the recount process ended at the Artichong Conference Center.
But as I said, this is a moment for us to reflect also, for us to come together as a country, come together as a people and embrace the future, learn from the challenges in building a stronger and more prosperous Guyana in which all of us can live and fulfill our dreams and aspirations. The citizens of Guyana, many of whom in civil society, in a diaspora, many young people who added their voices on social media, added their voices in media itself, and participated in this process. All the other parties that participated in this process, ensuring that we got to this point when the recount could have been completed. We want to thank them. We want to thank you, the media, as I said. And I want to assure all Guyanese that as we move towards the next stage of having the report submitted and a declaration, we must act in a responsible manner. We must act in a manner that our countrymen and women expect us to act in as leaders. We have to be gracious to each other, and we have to move forward in building this country and taking this country forward. We have been in a difficult position in this country since the no confidence motion. Life was never the same. Business was never the same. It is time Guyana gets that space to breathe and to move forward. Our country deserves this, and the citizens of our country deserves this.
You also have confidence in the process.
Of course, confidence in the process. Of course, we confidence in the process. Confidence in GCOM was always there from day one. Notwithstanding what happened, we all aware of what took place, but we still expected and were committed to this process to the end. And I know there are a few steps more to go, and we're basically waiting on GCOM now to complete a few steps and to make the declaration. And I'm confident that the declaration will go in favor of the PPPC. Beautiful. And that's a vindication of what we've been saying all the time, that we won these elections that were held on the 2nd of March. But we have to await GCOM to do their work and to make the declaration.
Where the recount was completed, and this is a recount of the ballots that were cast on March 2nd. They've been completed, and when tabulated, it will show a victory for the PPP, along the same magnitude that we said 3 months ago, just over 15,000 votes. And what this recount has verified is that the SOPs that the PPP had published, they were accurate because the SORs have matched those SOPs, and it has also shown the robustness of the system. Secondly, it has proven that the figures that Mr. Mingo declared, they were heavily inflated. So APNU will end up in Region 4 by about 16,000 less than the Mingo figure. And that is what we had argued that he had inflated the figures by. So actually 23,000. 23,000 they had inflated it by.
So you think if they go to court, it will be adding to that trauma?
They will, that is it, because clearly they were trying to alter even now the will of the people, which has been expressed in these boxes twice. And the international community, I don't know, they're testing people's patience, right, not just in Guyana, but I think the international community too has been pushed to the limit. They've been very generous in urging all parties to work together. But I think most of them know that who the transgressors are. And so going to court would just delay the inevitable. Because I don't see which court that the courts are indigenous. The judges organically live in our society. And so they understand the dynamics. And any sane person, a judge, would look at all that has gone through, see the recount, see the results of the recount, and then try and give APNU some injunction or something of the sort to block either the declaration or the swearing in of the president. A judge, I can't see any objective judge doing that sort of thing. And if they do, it would easily be overturned by a higher court.
So you're willing to go to all the courts to stop that?
Well, I'm hoping that we don't have to get there. But if we do, then we will fight tooth and nail all the way for democracy.
Meanwhile, APNU plus AFC, which in December 2018 collapsed on a no-confidence motion just 3.5 years into its government, secured enough votes to take 31 seats in the National Assembly. The group of three parties, ANOG, LJP and TNM, which agreed to combine their votes, secured 1 seat. It will be the first time since 2015 that three parties will be in the National Assembly. The PPP secured a total of 233,336 votes. APNU plus AFC secured 217,920. Together, ANOG, LJP and TNM secured 5,214 votes. The certification of Region 4 results will be done Tuesday afternoon at the Artichong Conference Centre. The Guyana Elections Commission, GECOM, is not empowered in law to declare on the credibility of the elections process and must declare the results of the vote count expeditiously, former Attorney General Anil Nandlal has stated. This follows the insistence of APNU plus AFC that GECOM has to study and decide on the allegations it has made that persons dead or migrated were marked off as having voted.
We have repeatedly stated that the recount is a legal exercise. It's an exercise that is governed by principles of law. And there are things that can be done in a recount exercise and things which cannot be done. So GECOM lawfully has no jurisdiction, no power, no authority to pronounce upon credibility, legality, or validity of its process. That's the first thing. In any event, by the principle of natural justice, one cannot be a judge in one's own cause. GCOM cannot judge itself. And thirdly, the issue is not without provision in the law. The Constitution of Guyana, Article 163, resides exclusively, and note the word exclusively. The Constitution itself uses that word. It resides exclusively in the High Court, a jurisdiction and a power to deal with issues of credibility of an elections, omissions, and allegations of wrongdoing emanating from an election. So, to answer your question, no. GCOM has no power and no authority to embark on any such exercise. GCOM is bound by a recount is a numbers game. It's a numbers game.
With one seat in the 65-member National Assembly, a new and united Guyana, the New Movement and the Liberty and Justice Party are hoping to force the two major political parties to work together in decision-making. The three parties, which formed a joined-up list before the polls, managed to get 5,214 votes. Chairman of ANOG, Timothy Jonas, during an interview with the Newsroom Monday, also explained how the parties will allocate their seat to ensure there is inclusivity.
The agreement between the parties, which we put in writing, provides that each of the three parties will nominate an individual to sit in that seat pro rata the duration of the electoral cycle. So in this case, ANOG and LJP have approximately the same number of votes. So you should see, according to our agreement, first a representative of LJP sitting in that seat for 2.5 years in the 5-year electoral cycle, and then for the next 2.5 years a representation of ANOG sitting in the seat. We will ensure that the New Movement, although they did not get very many votes, have their fair allocation of time for that seat. The other aspect of the agreement is that whoever is sitting in that seat will not vote for or against any motion passed in Parliament unless all three parties agree. So I have some proposals I plan to put forward, and I hope the parties agree, because the representative of that seat, whoever is sitting in that seat, is going to be proposing legislation to fix the problem we have. And what ANOG is going to be doing going into the future, we are going to be pressing the PPP once they get into government, assuming the GCOM does what it's supposed to do at this stage, to take measures both in statute and in their day-to-day conduct to include APNU and include the representatives of APNU in the decision-making process. Because the fact is, APNU represents 40%, or at least, of Guyana. And you cannot have a system where, in our winner-take-all, the representative of 40% has zero say. We have to start changing the system so that both the PPP and APNU, whether we like them or not, recognizing that they represent, each of them, nearly half of the population of Guyana, both of them need to have a say. This cannot be PPP going forward, running the show all by itself as a monarchy. And I want to reach out now to the PPP folk to say to you, you talked constitutional reform, you talked inclusivity, but now is the time for action.
Still ahead on the newsroom, Teachers Union defies government and tells teachers to stay home, and Guyanese who are stranded overseas return home. Welcome back, you're watching the newsroom. The Guyana Teachers Union on Monday called on teachers to stay home in protest at the Ministry of Education's decision to conduct classes and examinations during the COVID-19 pandemic. Isanella Patro has more.
Teachers across the country were asked to return to school on Monday morning to prepare classrooms for students writing the National Grade 6 Assessment NGSA, Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate CSEC, and Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examinations CAPE. But the Guyana Teachers Union GTU called on teachers to stay at home in protest against the Ministry of Education decision to reopen school for exam students. The GTU in a statement said this decision is based on the fact that Guyana's situation remains fluid as it relates to COVID-19. The GTU said positive cases of coronavirus are still being recorded, and this poses a threat to the well-being of all Guyanese whose desire is to remain healthy. The union advised teachers to remain in the safety of their homes and continue to give virtual support to learners as they finalize their preparations for their respective examinations. It is unclear at this point how many teachers heeded the call. The Ministry of Education on Monday clarified that all teachers are to return to school, not just exam teachers. President of GTU, Mark Light, said they are concerned about teachers and students' health. NGSA is set for July 1st and 2nd, while the CSEC and CAPE exams are set to begin on July 13th. The GTU stated that there should be no sense of guilt felt by any teachers since the union's recommendations to have these examinations written at a later date fell on deaf ears. The GTU assured that victimization measures will be resisted in the strongest possible way. The GTU has consistently objected to the examination dates and proposed that NGSA can be written in September and CSEC and CAPE in October. The union had communicated its concern to the Ministry of Education, but nothing was done. It is urging teachers to remain safe and continue to follow the health protocols established by the World Health Organization and supported by the Ministry of Public Health here in Guyana. A total of 11,998 students are registered to write the CSEC exams in Guyana, and 852 students are registered to write CAPE. An estimated 14,730 students will be writing the National Grade 6 assessment on July 1st and 2nd. All public schools were closed on March 16 to prevent the spread of COVID-19. The Ministry of Education last week stated that no more than 15 students will be allowed in a classroom when schools reopen on June 15th. The furniture in schools will be placed 6 feet apart. It was also noted that the cleaning staff, security guards, and teachers are being trained on infectious diseases practices and interventions should anyone present with any COVID-19 symptoms. Health bays will be set up at every school to monitor everyone entering the school. The schools and classrooms will be sanitized routinely. No one will be allowed entry without a face mask, and the ministry will provide masks for those students who cannot afford. These regulations will also be done in private schools across the country. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isanella Pato.
The Ministry of Finance Sunday suffered a burst main which resulted in severe water damage to documents and equipment in the main building and the disruption of all phone services. The ministry Monday said the Office of the Minister of Finance is unaffected. As a result of the incident, the ministry said all of its counter services are suspended until Thursday. All other services, including the payment of salaries and pensions, remain uninterrupted, the ministry stated, adding that it is working assiduously to ensure that the full operation of the ministry is swiftly restored. After months of being stranded in the United States due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the first group of Guyanese returned home on Saturday. It was an emotional moment for the 137 passengers when the flight landed at the Chedichakan International Airport.
This is the best country in the world. There's no place like home. It is so nice to be back home and to see nice, welcoming faces.
84-year-old John Quill was one of the 137 passengers who arrived on Saturday's Eastern Airlines flight. Mr. Quill, who was stranded in Miami for 3 months and 6 days, pledged to do all that is necessary to protect himself against COVID-19. Those who have returned are required to stay in quarantine at their homes for 7 days. The Surveillance Department of the Public Health Ministry will remain in contact with the citizens to ensure compliance with health guidelines. Sharida Sator, one of the returning Guyanese, said she will comply with the stipulated 7-day home quarantine along with other guidelines implemented by the National COVID-19 Task Force.
First of all, I'll stay at home for the 7 days that I have to, as mandated by this. And then I will be working from home and I will not be going out much. And if I really have to go out for necessities, I'm going to make sure I wear my mask and just go to do what I have to do and get back home.
Here is what a few others who returned had to say.
Oh, feels real nice. Can't wait for this day, you know. It feels good.
And how long were you in?
It was like, I leave here on the 12th of March, like what, close to 3 months almost.
I tell you what, I've been out of Guyana since February the 19th. And it feels fantastic, like I've got a second life right now. Being back in Guyana, I miss my country terribly. When the aircraft touched down, man, everybody was clapping. Tears came. We're glad to be home.
It's an extraordinary feeling to be back where you belong, but it doesn't end here. There are a lot more people that are left behind, and the struggle continues even for them.
Welcoming the returning Guyanese was Minister of Public Health, Valdo Lawrence, who commended the airport staff for following the necessary health protocols. The minister said Saturday's flight was possible due to the continuous work of all ministries, agencies, and stakeholders.
The fact that today we can be able to open the airport for Guyanese who are in various countries. Today, specifically, we looked at the USA. To begin to come home, it's because we would have been able to put in place several elements needed to ensure that we can be able to cushion any effects that will spill out from persons traveling from high-risk country to Guyana.
The minister also noted that the Health Emergency Operations Department is also in a position to address any possible cases should one of the returned citizens later test positive for COVID-19. Director General of the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, Egbert Field, was also at the airport to welcome the nationals. On May 22nd, the National COVID-19 Task Force said it will permit controlled re-entry of approximately 300 Guyanese through the nation's international airports. All returning Guyanese are obligated to observe several measures set out by the task force. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isabella Patwo.
Back, this is the newsroom. The Guyana Civil Aviation Authority is currently developing draft COVID-19 regulations for when Guyana's international airports begin operating again. Airlines operating in Guyana, along with airport staff and pilots, will be required to comply with the COVID-19 regulations, the Department of Public Information reported. The Director General of the Aviation Authority, Lieutenant Colonel Egbert Field, said that the penalty for non-compliance with the regulations will be suspension of license, whether if it's the airlines or pilots.
Also, during this planning phase, we have put together the SOPs, which is to be followed. That was in draft, it's now finalized, and I'm reviewing that. We have now to shoulder those SOPs. We are now in the process of drafting regulations, because should individuals not conform to the measures outlined in the SOPs, there must be a document that you can hold them, say, listen, you're accountable to this section. If they transgress this section, you must be able to take some kind of penalties. Well, anybody that has a document issued by the GCA, we have control over that individual, whether it be the airport or the airline or the pilots, either suspension of license, suspension of operating certificate. So at the moment we are in the process of moving ahead with regulations, which will be able to guide the process for the other phases. So this is all in the planning phase now. What we do, or what we are doing, we have been speaking with the various stakeholders. And to culminate the discussions we've had with the stakeholders, on Monday we are hosting an A&R. An A&R like a webinar, but why talk about webinar when we're talking about aviation? So I've labeled it an A&R.
Guyana did not record any new COVID-19 case as of June 8, but 4 more persons have recovered, bringing the total number of recoveries to 84. Dr. Artenisa Hamilton, Director of Primary Healthcare, delivered Monday's update.
As of the 8th of June 2020 is as follows. As of today, of the 8 tests done, there are no new cases. Our COVID-19 deaths remain at 12, and the number of confirmed cases, 154. To date, the total number of persons tested is 1,816, with the total number of negative cases being 1,662. In total, 2,651 tests have been conducted. We currently have 84 persons that have recovered, 58 active cases in institutional isolation, 2 patients in the COVID ICU, and 14 persons in institutional quarantine. Many of you would have noted over the past 7 days that we have recorded only 1 new case. This does not mean, however, that we can return to business as usual. In fact, I encourage you to be extremely vigilant as our vulnerability for imported cases is heightened given the current situation in the countries around us. In the last 24 hours, Brazil recorded 30,830 new cases and 1,127 deaths. Suriname now has 90 positive cases with 8 new cases in the last 24 hours. And in neighboring Venezuela, there are 58 new cases.
To lend its support in the fight against COVID-19, the Guyana Defence Force has provided 2 of its medics to assist at the Georgetown Public Hospital's screening points. The newsroom's Vivi Katoon recently spoke with Kioma Livan of Essequibo Coast and Rondell Garnett of Linden, 2 soldiers who are attached to the GDF's medical corps who have been in the forefront fighting the global pandemic in Guyana.
Well, I've always loved medicine. I've always felt that it is my calling to help people. I am Sergeant Kioma Livan from the Guyana Defence Force. I joined the Guyana Defence Force in 2009, and that would make 11 years now I'm in the force. And I subscribed to the medical department. We are selected to join in the fight against COVID. There's persons that are trained and capable. So it was a plus for me because I felt like I needed to come out here and fight, do something for the country. Our duties mainly are screening and sanitization, ensuring that persons wash their hands and they wear their mask and stuff before they enter the hospital. That's to reduce the risk of other persons being infected. When a person comes to our screening point, the first thing we greet them, we ask them if there is any cough or cold, flu-like symptoms, any fever. Sometimes you can notice this if they have red eyes, as we call it. It's a form of infection. It comes in that form too. So we go them through that process where we ask them all the questions. If they have any chest pains, difficulty breathing and stuff, then we sanitize their hands, right? If the person isn't wearing a mask, if we will provide one to them. That's if they need to get into the hospital. Now, there are some cases where people come to the hospital and there are multiple persons, but only 1 or 2 persons need to go in. We ask them to let the persons that are not essential, who don't have to go to the hospital, to stay outside, while only the persons who need care will go into the hospital. Why is it so important is because if you're infected with COVID-19 and you have senior citizens at home or you have really young children at home who are at risk, are at more of a risk to get COVID-19 and to suffer from COVID-19, as in probably die, then the earlier you know is the safer they can be, because you can get treated or you can know to distance yourself from them. We've had multiple cases where persons come with conditions that are similar to COVID-19 symptoms. So what we do is that we send them to a special screening point where the doctors will then do a further checkup on them. That includes, I think, chest x-rays and detailed examinations to verify whether or not they do have COVID-19 or it's just a common cold or a relative condition that is close to the symptoms of COVID-19. What happens is that there are a lot of people that if you tag them red, and red means that I'm possibly contaminated with COVID, they will take off the ban and come around to the next gate and say that, when you ask them the questions, then they deny it. And they're probably tagged a different color and they go into the hospital. But when somebody realizes in there that, okay, this person is sneezing constantly or coughing constantly, then they send them back out. I think most people are not fully educated about COVID, and they take it for granted. They take that, you being sick could make everybody else sick. So they don't think about that. They always think about themselves. I guess it's human nature.
Was there at any point that you felt a little bit scared because of the infectious disease and then protecting your family and stuff?
Well, no. I think that the closer you are, the more the equipment. Here, you get all the protective equipment. So it's kind of safer here than it is out there in the streets, because you're walking around and basically you don't know who has it. But here, you get the whole screening process, and if something should happen, then you're first in line for care.
Hi, my name is Room Guyana. I'm from the Guyana Defense Force. My work experience here for the COVID-19 has been a great experience so far. I just take up the opportunity as it comes. Well, I'm not scared of anything, so I'm up for the challenge. Some of the patients are very, I could say, they curse you out and these kind of things, but it's all right. It's a great experience and on the base.
When the newsroom returns, the financial weather and bridge reports along with sport.